changed my mind on.
Yeah.
I'm way, way, way more bullish on sauna than I have ever been before. I used to be in the camp of sauna feels great. It maybe even helps you sleep a bit better. That's probably about it. Like, there's no way you're going to really live longer because you're in a sauna. And while truthfully, we don't have really great prospective data, I should say we have good prospective data. We don't have good randomized data. I think this is one of those things where the burden of evidence in the non-randomized data is so strong, it's becoming hard to ignore. So most of the research on this subject has come out of Finland, and
the sauna lobby.
Yeah. And so there's the obvious issues with this, right? The people who can afford to sauna are by definition going to have more time on their hands, more disposable income, probably more education, like all of the standard things. On top of that, if you're going to choose to sauna because you believe it's healthy, what else are you doing because you believe it is healthy? I mean,
right.
So you know, if the data showed that sauna versus non-sauna was like a 5% improvement in mortality, it would be hard to get that excited about it. But when you look at the largest published series on this, you see a benefit in all-cause mortality, a relative risk reduction of 40% and an absolute risk reduction of like 18%. Those are high numbers. Those are ridiculous numbers. And that's when you are comparing someone who owns like saunas 4 to 7 times a week.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, so what's the dose and frequency?
What's the dose and frequency, and what do you believe the minimum effective dose to be? Kind of like the zone 2 training, you described what it is, and then you said, so 3 hours a week, I do 4 times 45.
Yeah, just to get to the punchline, I think based on the research, the MED is 4 sessions, 20 minutes, 80 degrees Celsius.
Dry, wet.
There's much more literature on dry. You know, I actually had a call with a patient this morning, and this topic of saunas came up, and she asked if she could substitute steam rooms and such. And I said, we just don't know because we don't have the data. So the precautionary principle would say, if you have access to a dry sauna, that's where we have reams and reams and reams of data. So it's probably where it goes. But look, if you think about what the mechanism of action is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you next. Is it heat shock proteins? Is it something else?
I think it's many things. I think it's heat shock proteins. I think it's nitric oxide. I think it's like literally vascular tone, right? Reduction in blood pressure. It's an increase in heart rate and cardiac output. So there's a bit of an exercise benefit. I don't know if BDNF, I think BDNF has been measured. I can't recall. That could be another potential benefit. So my guess is it's
BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Yeah, I think it's probably 6 things that are all moving in the right direction. It's funny, when I have done some sauna-ing, I've done lactate checks in there to see if it gets me to zone 2. It's not a pure exercise mimetic because it doesn't even get me to the level of a zone 2 workout. At least when it comes to a pure, ATP uptake or ATP production standpoint. But yeah, I've become like really optimistic on this, and I think it's very promising. And I think it's the challenge is how scalable is it, right? Like it's not that easy to do.
I would imagine also contraindicated for a lot of folks. Depending.
Yeah, I suspect, if you're really far down the line of your health is suffering and you're, particularly old or something like that, or your heart's a little more frail, this might push you a little bit beyond. So again, it speaks to sort of prevention and hopefully with COVID kind of winding its way down and enough people getting vaccinated, people can get back to gyms where saunas are and things like that.
Yeah, amazing.